Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Steven. So we'll talk some more about orchid and the season changing. So today's topic is really about season transition, a change of temperature, change of your rain, humidity, etc. Today is September 8th, and as in September here in Wisconsin, weather starts to slowly creeping downwards. There's still some warm days, but we start to see some cooler days. So for the last 2 nights, the nighttime temperature actually is creeping down into the 40s in Fahrenheit. And if you're not familiar with the Fahrenheit system, which I personally prefer the Celsius system, it is like in single digits, about somewhere between 5 to 10 degrees, and when it is in the 40s. So that is too cold for most of the orchids that are popular in the plant trade. Some orchids can withstand that, and some orchids actually do live in the temperate environment, but not the ones that I have here. Most of these are tropical, if not subtropical, and 5 degrees Celsius is way too cold for them. So for that reason, in the last 2 nights, I have a area heater on. Right now it says 62, and it is about 8 a.m. here. Outside right now is 10 Celsius, and 10 Celsius translate to roughly like 50 ish, 50 I think, in Fahrenheit. So during the nights that are not that cold, I do not have this area heater on. But the nights that are really cold, I have it on for the last 2 nights, and the temperature has consistently stayed between 55 to 60. So the orchids are doing fine right now. And looking at the weather forecast next week, the temperature will bounce back to daytime temperature back to the 80s, and nighttime temperature will back up to the 60s to the low 70s. So that will allow me to take a break from the thermostat and from the heater here. But what to do when the season transitions? Well, if you keep your orchid outside in the temperate environment like me, September and October is probably the time that you want to start considering bringing them in. So inside the house, as I've shown before, I've already prepared some of the racks and some hanging devices for my orchid to go in to winterize. But my plan, at least for now, until things don't work anymore, is that I think I will start moving the cattleyas and the phalaenopsis, as well as anything that's a vanda or wrinkle stylus. These are the true tropical orchids. They really prefer warm and hot temperature, and so I think I'll start moving these guys inside as soon as the daytime temperature drops below 70 in Fahrenheit, which is around I would say probably, when it drops below like 20 Celsius, I'll move them inside. And then once the daytime temperature drops below 60, and assuming nighttime temperature does not frost. If there's frost, I'll move everything in. But as long as nighttime temperature doesn't drop below, I'd say like 50, I will still be able to leave them out. But if either daytime or nighttime drops below 60 or 50 respectively, I'll start moving the rest of my orchids, including the dendrobiums and the what do I call this? My brain always kind of like blank out when I'm taking videos. Yeah, but the cymbidiums inside, the slipper orchids, I could probably, in theory, I can leave them out a little bit longer because they tend to like higher altitude, or and they can withstand a little bit cooler temperature. But I still don't want them to get cold damage of any sorts. This entire rack, I'll move them inside, along with my cattleyas and the phalaenopsis whenever the temperature drops down. And also typically in fall, you will see the weather start to dry up a little bit. So at that time, you actually shouldn't need to change your watering habit if you have your orchids outdoors, just because while the air is drier and and you don't have as much rain, it is also cooler, so the evaporation doesn't go as fast, and also daytime is a little bit shorter, so you won't have as much evaporation as you would in the summertime. So in theory, you shouldn't have to change a whole lot unless you suddenly have a few really hot days or really windy days that just kind of dries up everything. Then you might want to mist them a little bit, but even then you don't want to drown them in water just because of the cooler temperature and the shorter daytime. Your substrate or your medium won't have as much of a chance to dry up, and you're going to be risking like root rot and everything. Oh, one last thing before I conclude the video is that my plan is that I will look at the weather forecast carefully, but before I move everything inside, I will also spray them down with natural insecticides if I can, and let them sit out here for overnight for a day before I move everything, just to make sure that I rid of as much pests as I could. Pests, when you think about pests, you want to get rid of anything that's a scale, anything that's a mealybug, anything that is a little red spider mites. Those are all your orchid killers, or orchid damagers, if you will. What I also found that's really interesting is that around this season in transition here in Wisconsin anyways, maybe some other areas of the country in the US, and if you're other areas of the world, it might be pretty easy to find ladybugs during this time, because ladybugs like to go indoors when the weather gets colder. So I actually caught a couple ladybugs and I released it here. And as you know, ladybugs are predatory insects, and their primary diet is plant damaging insects. So all of the above that I've mentioned are on ladybug's menu. So if you can find any ladybugs that are trying to creep into your house, it's actually the perfect time to catch them and release them on or around your orchids, so that they can rid of any pests that your orchid may have, and keep them clean before you move them inside. And ladybugs are much easier to capture and just get out of your plant than any of the other pests that I've mentioned above. So that's it for today. I would love to hear you on some of your seasonal transitional plans, and if you have any questions or opinions on everything that I've just said, love to exchange all those information with you. I hope you have a good day, and I hope your orchid will survive the season change and prosper us. Thank you. Bye.